Check.
It was easy. It was a fine Anglo-Saxon name. Are we on? Oh, good, we're on. Can we get started, Michael? I'm going to guess we're okay to go. He didn't say anything to me. Did he say we're okay to go, Jonathan? Yep. Okay. I call to order the Utility Special District Board of Directors meeting on Wednesday, November 18th. The time is 5:35 p.m. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Chairperson Julia Botel.
Here.
Chair Pro Tem Douglas Lawson.
Here.
Board Member Trodrick McCoy. Board Member Kashamba Miller Anderson. Board Member Shirley Lanier.
Present.
Ex officio Board Member Mayor Ronnie Felder. City Manager Jonathan Evans.
Present.
Acting Executive Director Jonathan Batista.
Present.
District Clerk Claudia Anthony is present. District Attorney Don Nguyen. Here. District Finance Director Randy Sherman. Here. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. We'll have a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Board Member Lanier. Thank you. Any person who would like to speak on an agenda item, please complete a pink public comment card located at the front desk prior to the item being taken up by the Utility District Board for discussion. Members of the public will be given a total of 3 minutes to speak on all items listed on the consent agenda and 3 minutes to speak on each regular item. The time limit for public comment may be reduced by a vote of the Board of the Utility District on the voluminous nature of public comment cards. In no event will anyone be allowed to submit a public comment card to speak on an agenda item after the resolution is read or the item is considered. Do we have any additions, deletions, or substitutions from the City Manager, Executive Director, or Board members?
No, Madam Chair, none from staff.
Thank you. Do we have any disclosures from Board members? I see none.
Madam Chair?
Yes, I'm sorry.
They need to close these
Commission,
doors.
Board Member Lanier, you're recognized.
No, I was just saying the doors need to be closed because I keep hearing this background noise out. They're closing them
Oh,
now.
okay. Thank you. Would someone care to make a motion to adopt the agenda?
Madam Chair,
Mr. Lawson, you're recognized.
I move to adopt the agenda for today's Utility District meeting.
Thank you. Would someone care to second?
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly seconded to adopt the agenda. Madam Clerk? Madam Clerk, the motion to adopt the agenda is made as your name is called. Please answer yes or no.
Board Member Lanier.
Yes.
Pro Tem Lawson.
Yes.
Chair Botel.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
The vote was 3-0, so the agenda is adopted. Consent agenda.
Madam Chair, there is no consent agenda.
Yes, there is a consent agenda. Do we have any, let's see, would someone care to make a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
Madam Chair?
You're recognized, Board
No.
Member Lawson.
There's no consent agenda, Madam Chair.
Oh, there is no, I'm so worried about what I'm saying next. Thank you. Item number 1, Madam Clerk.
Resolution number 20-20 UD, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the City of Riviera Beach Utility Special District, Palm Beach County, Florida, approving Chin Moore and Associates Construction Administration scope of services associated with the Silver Beach Road project with Palm Beach County, authorizing the District Finance Director to transfer $56,685 from project number 18146 to 18122, and authorizing the district finance director to make payments from project number 18122 in an amount not to exceed $56,685 and provide an effective date. Madam Chair, members of the board, we do not have any public comment cards on this item. The acceptance of public comments on this item is now closed.
Thank you. Would someone care to make a motion to approve this resolution?
So
Madam Chair,
moved.
You're recognized, Board Member Lawson.
motion to approve
Thank you.
agenda item resolution 2020 UD.
Thank you. Would someone care to second?
Second.
Thank you. It is moved and seconded that the board approve the CMA scope of services in order to continue receiving construction administration services for Silver Beach Road. Is there any discussion or debate? Do we have a presentation?
Madam Chair, if I can have Acting Director of the Utility District, Mr. Jonathan Batista, comment on this particular item.
Let's see. Is this test working? Excellent. So for this item, when it comes to the Silver Beach, good now? Excellent. So for this project, it's Silver Beach Road construction's ongoing. We have contractors on site, and essentially this resolution deals with our engineer to continue to provide construction administration services for it.
Thank you. Is there any other debate or question? Thank you. Madam Clerk, the motion is moved, seconded, that the board approve the CMA scope of services in order to continue receiving construction administration services for Silver Beach Road. As the clerk calls the question, please answer yes if you're in favor and no if you're not. Madam Clerk?
Board Member Lanier,
Yes.
Pro Tem Lawson,
Yes.
Chair Botel.
Yes.
That motion is approved with 3 yeses and 0 nos.
Thank you. The vote, as stated, is approved by 3 yeses and 0 nos. Item number 2.
Resolution number 21-20 UD, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the City of Riviera Beach Utility Special District, Palm Beach County, Florida, approving a well condition assessment proposal by Holtz Consulting Engineers, authorizing the District Finance Director to make payments from project number 21017 in an amount not to exceed $89,055 and providing an effective date. Madam Chair and members of the board, we do not have any public comment cards on this item. The acceptance of public comments on this item is now closed.
Thank you. Would someone care to make a motion to approve the resolution?
Madam Chair, so moved.
You're recognized, Board Member Lanier.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. It is moved and seconded that the board approves the Holtz well condition assessment to establish a framework for completely rehabilitate the water supply system. Is there a presentation, Mr. Director?
Madam Chair, this item is before the board to seek consideration to enter into a professional services agreement with Holtz Consulting Engineering Services to look at the existing wells that the City of Riviera Beach currently has. The initial assessment was done in 2018, and staff wants to look at the conditions of the existing wells to make a determination as to what wells are optimal for continuation when we do move forward with the implementation of a new water treatment facility. So this is the study phase that will provide additional information to staff to make recommendations to the board with respect to the existing wells and the conditions of the wells. There was a previous analysis that was done back in 2018 that found out there were some deficiencies with regards to some of our wells that were inoperable. Currently, there are 22 wells that are operable and out of 27. So staff is recommending moving forward with the continuing engineering services contract with Holtz Engineering to facilitate the study, and staff recommends approval.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments?
Madam Chair.
You're recognized,
Thank you.
Board Member Lawson.
Mr. Batista or Mr. Evans, the study that we're going to be doing, that we're assessing again, is this going to tell us something different than that happened in 2018, or is this just an updated study that we need to complete?
If I may answer. So it's meant to do two things.
I'm
One,
sorry, if you could speak a little louder, Mr. Batista.
can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. So the first thing it'll do is update the 2018 study. There were improvements made since then. There was a series of work done by a contractor who replaced some of the pumps within the wells and did other work, but it's unclear how beneficial those improvements affected the well fields. Another part to this is there are water quality sampling that will be conducted as part of this assessment, so we understand which wells provide high water quality versus those who may not, so that we can determine which wells are worth investing in.
Follow up, Madam Chair.
Yes, you're recognized.
So the study that was completed in 2018, it did not have that data?
It did not include water quality data.
I'm sorry?
It did not include water quality data.
Okay, so if it didn't have the water quality data, what else can we expect, or what other information is necessary or needed in this assessment that we're currently doing? Because I don't want us to have to do another assessment that's missing a piece and spend another $85,000 2 years later to do essentially the same study we could have done 2 years ago. So is there anything that's missing from this that we need to know of prior to approving this?
Yes, so there's two additional items. One is to establish a capital plan for our well field assessment program, where we have a budget set up, but it doesn't necessarily tie into the improvements needed for the existing treatment plant or the future treatment plant, so it helps us align with that vision.
And do we have an estimated cost on what that would be?
For the well field improvements,
Yes.
currently no.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other questions or comments? It has been moved and seconded that the board approve the Holtz Well Condition Assessment to establish a framework to completely rehabilitate the water supply system. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll? If you are in favor, say yes. If opposed, please say no.
Board Member Lanier,
Yes.
Pro Tem Lawson,
Yes.
Chair Botel.
Yes.
That motion is approved with 3 yeses and 0 noes.
Thank you. The motion is approved with 3 yeses and no votes. Item number 3.
Resolution number 22-20 UD, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the City of Riviera Beach, Utility Special District, Palm Beach County, Florida, approving a contract with Johnson Davis, Inc. of Lantana, Florida, cooperative purchasing contract number IFB number 20-106 with the City of Lake Worth Beach for emergency utility repairs for water, wastewater, and stormwater, authorizing the utility district chairperson and district clerk to execute this contract, authorizing the finance director to make payments from the contract services sewer project number 18143 at a cost not to exceed $400,000 annually, and providing an effective date. Madam Chair, members of the board, we do not have any public comment on this item. The acceptance of public comment on this item is now closed.
Thank you. Would someone care to make a motion to approve the resolution?
Madam Chair.
You recognize Board Member
Move to
Lawson.
approve Resolution 2220 UD
Thank you.
for acceptance.
Would someone care to second the motion?
Second.
Thank you. Do we have any questions, or is there a presentation?
Madam Chair, this item before you is to seek a commitment for 2 years with Johnson & Davis to provide contractual services to the utility district for on-call emergency repair services. This is a budgeted expenditure in the FY 2021 budget, and staff recommends approval. There is no funds that would be expended out of that account, only if an emergency is deemed and declared, and staff needs to respond accordingly, but it is a budgeted expenditure.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or concerns?
Madam Chair.
Board Member Lawson, you're recognized.
Thank you. Mr. Evans, you said this is a continuing contract with Johnson Davis, so there was no RFP issued for this?
This is for a 2-year contract for repair services. With regards to the procurement and the solicitation, if Ms. Pimsel can provide some insight with respect to that process.
Any other questions? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't say that.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. Oh, forgot Mayor's not present at the Utility District right now. So, good evening. Your questions, please.
The procurement process for this contract, can you please outline how this was done?
Yeah, this was done as a cooperative agreement,
Okay,
and this was the issuing agency is the City of Lake Worth Beach. And Johnson Controls was one of the firms that's attached to several different contracts from Sourcewell, with the issuing agency being Lake Worth.
so this was a cooperative agreement, so there was no RFP issued, and this was essentially a recommendation from the City of Lake Worth and the vendor that they're currently using.
I'm sorry, I did hear you say there is no RFP issued. That's correct.
Okay, so how was this vendor specifically chosen?
We look at several contracts over the course of the last month or so. I've been meeting with individual departments and talking about their different needs and the reactiveness of the needs. And because we did not have an emergency contract in place for the utility district, we had used Johnson Davis in the past and did not have a current agreement. So we looked through all of the Sourcewell agreements and some other cooperatives and determined that the services that's being provided, which are emergency services, match the need we had for utility district.
So they're emergency services, but they're pretty much getting on retainer. It's an annual contract. So these aren't actual emergency services that's being issued. This is a contract that we're getting into with Johnson & Davis to provide emergency services.
Yes.
Okay. Local participation, Ms. Pemsel. If you could give me some insight as to the local participation for Johnson & Davis.
Well, on our cooperative agreements and all of our agreements, we ask the people that receive the contracts to be sure that they engage local participation when they issue the task order for the services. So this contract, as it is approved, will be allow Johnson to work for us, but then when they need to have services, they will issue a task order. The department will be given the SPE forms to be able to fill out when they get the task order, and we review that to see what participation takes place. There's other items on the regular agenda tonight, and you'll see that what we do in that regard.
So, as of right now, we're going to ask that they use local participation, but we have no idea what this company is going to use, and there are no requirements that they have to follow with this $400,000 contract.
At this time, we had not did our outreach to the company, but when there is specific projects, we will ensure that the use of local participation occurs.
Okay, so I understand that because there were no specific projects that we haven't requested the local participation, but before we sign a contract, and every dollar that goes out and every agreement that goes out has to be negotiated into the contract, regardless of where it is, city, CRA, utility district. Before we bring this contract to this dais, I want to see that local participation, minority participation, WMBE, SBE businesses are going to be contracted. Point blank period. There's literally not going to be a discussion to where we have to have this discussion after we've signed a contract. We have to engage these vendors prior to. And I understand that we didn't go through an RFP process. This was a cooperative agreement. That gives us even more power to negotiate that prior to signing this contract. So why would we sign a contract when we have the authority and ability to empower our residents for the opportunity to be gainfully employed by these companies, yet we're still bringing these contracts to the table and we don't have local already contracted into the discussion? I know we want to expedite these processes, but there's not an emergency today. We're just contracting them for future emergencies. So let's negotiate with Johnson & Davis and tell them that we have a certain standard that they have to follow when it comes to minority and local participation.
Well, we will have to revisit then the use of cooperative contracts, because one of the provisions of cooperative contracts is that the contract in and of itself has already been negotiated.
Right.
So we can only do this piece when it comes to cooperative on the back end. What we can do, though, is to ask the cooperatives, did they get that information up front?
Right.
But I didn't want to use the people they selected because they may not have been the local suppliers that we're trying to reach out to. So we are revisiting how to be able to do that, because that's a different nuance. When we do it, we have full control over that piece.
So, and that's why it's difficult for me to be supportive of these cooperative contracts if we don't have the proper language in place. So now I understand that that's something that we would have to effectually change. Have we had or given Mr. Franklin an opportunity to review these cooperative contracts?
No, we have not given him the opportunity to review the cooperative contracts.
Okay.
But we did talk about some of we based it on our ones that we issue, the ones that the city issues. So that's what I said. We did have touched down on that as to what to do. So right now, our intermediate solution would be to have, when the task order goes out, have our SBE forms attached until we can find out whether, because that could have potentially affect us not using cooperatives, and they're so important to us. You know, we have to find a way to make that happen.
Right. I don't think that it's going to affect our ability to use cooperatives when we're issuing $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 annual contracts to allow and request that they participate with 5, 10, 15% local. So I don't think it's going to affect that. As a business owner, I'm going to do everything in my power to hire local to make sure I can get this contract. So yes, it won't affect that. But Mr. Evans, in regards to, thank you, Ms. Pimsel. In regards to the contracts that are coming before the table, Mr. Evans, I'm to a point now where I need bi-weekly updates on where we stand with Mr. Lee, because now we have another $400,000 coming to the table, and we want it to be signed off on a cooperative agreement, yet we haven't even addressed or had a discussion about women or local or minority participation. This has to be a priority, and this has to be a priority of my colleagues, and I'm speaking directly to my colleagues. This has to be a priority for us to empower our local residents and our local businesses. So everything that comes before the table, we have to have our eyes on it. And if we've already hired a consultant to review this, there's no reason that anything should come to the table that he hasn't reviewed. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome.
Madam-
Any other, please let the record show that Board Member Miller Anderson has joined the dais. Do we have any other comments or concerns?
Yes,
Madam Chair?
You're recognized, Member Lanier.
I think that the procurement department is basically working with what they have. You have a situation where if the city itself does not have an adopted disparity study and an ordinance, we cannot force a supplier or a contractor to add minority businesses. We can suggest, we can try and have them to work with us and tell them this is what we want, but until we have a disparity study and an ordinance, then we are in a situation where we have to work with these contractors and hope that they add minority subs as a part of their agreement with the city. So I definitely would like to see the disparity study moving forward more quickly than it is, so that we can have some enforcement when we use contracts or when we use contractors to do business with the city. Could you, Mr. Evans, could you make sure that at least once a month that the council is updated on the status of the disparity study? I know that these things take time because there's a lot of data that you have to accumulate. There is just a lot that's involved with it. But if we can get an update, I would hope that we can get at least once a month to let us know what the process is and what's happening with the disparity study. Because as long as we don't have it and have an ordinance that is supporting it, we can't really force people to do anything.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Board Member Lawson, you're
Thank
recognized.
you. And Councilwoman Lanier, to your point, I would recommend that it be suggested, but with this cooperative agreement, it wasn't even suggested. So if we say that we want to move forward with a disparity study, respectfully, on October 18, 2019, we as a board voted 5-0 to move forward with it, yet we haven't done the due diligence necessary, nor have we used the consultant to review these contracts that are still coming before us prior to us having a discussion. Just the disparity study is not my concern, because the disparity study is going to take us 2 years from the day we start collecting data, which I have no idea if we're collecting. My concern is that we have plans, we have policies and procedures we can put in place today that can effectually implement minority and women participation and require that we have a percentage. Even in our code, which I have with us, we have information that allows for us to collect 5% variance on all projects. So there's a few things that we have to address in regards to this disparity study. And honestly, I'm to a point now where I just can't hope that council is going to do it. And I agree with the monthly updates, but Mr. Evans, every meeting, if we can get an update on what's going on, because we have money going out of the door every single day. And if we don't effectually implement a study and a policy for minorities and women, then we're just allowing for a community to not reap any of the benefits of the dollars that's being spent. So, Madam Chair, if we can continue to support a study, but also implementing a procedure to make sure Mr. Franklin Lee, or whatever consultant, because I understand there's been another consultant they've engaged, is reviewing every document that goes out of the city. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
Madam Chair, if I
Yes,
may address some of the comments that were
You're
made.
recognized.
We do have a item that is slated to come before the board for an update with regards to the disparity study. We have authorized another professional services contract with the entity and individuals that would be collecting the data and looking at the data that we currently have to address some of the items that the board has articulated, and we can provide you a more robust update and discussion at your first meeting in December, and that is staff's plan to do so, to provide you the steps that we're taking, the steps that we have outlined forward, and how quickly we can get something before this board to ratify that actually addresses some of the items that were articulated. To Ms. Pimsell's point, the cooperative agreement that is being requested to be utilized is based on similar like-for-like services that the city of Riviera Beach is looking to acquire, and our hope is that we don't have to utilize this contractor at all, but we've had some challenges with regards to our infrastructure, so staff did some research very quickly to find entities that have gone out through the competitive solicitation process to fulfill the immediate need that the city has. So we certainly, as you'll see in subsequent items on the agenda, on the regular agenda for the city council, we have asked the questions that this board has communicated with respect to WMB, SBE, and we will make sure that that is a concerted effort from the agency, and we'll be bringing you up to speed on the progress we've made at your first meeting in December.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Madam Clerk, it is moved and seconded that the board approve the associated resolution so that the district has a mechanism to quickly repair and replace failed infrastructure systems. As your name is called, please answer yes or no.
Madam Chair, members of the board, recognize that Board Member
I'm sorry,
McCoy
please thank you.
is now present. Board Member Lanier,
Yes.
Board Member McCoy,
No.
Board Member Miller Anderson,
Yes.
Pro Tem Lawson,
No.
Chair Botel.
Yes.
That motion is approved with 3 yeses and 2 noes.
Thank you. The motion is approved with 3 affirmative votes and 2 negative votes. Madam Clerk, item number 4.
Resolution number 25-20 UD, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the City of Riviera Beach, Utilities Special District, Palm Beach County, Florida, approving an agreement for a grant in the amount not to exceed $1,900,800 from the State of Florida's Department of Economic Opportunity for infrastructure repairs, further accepting the terms and conditions of the grant, authorizing the Utility Special District Finance Director to accept revenue in an amount not to exceed $1,900,800 and establish a new project budget for C-17 and M canal crossings to receive the revenue, and authorizing the city manager to sign off on all associated documents and providing an effective date. Madam Chair, members of the board, we do not have any public comments on this item. The acceptance of public comments on this item is now closed.
Thank you. Would anyone care to make a motion to approve the resolution?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I move the approval of resolution number 25-20 UD.
Thank you. Would someone care to second?
Second.
Thank you. There is no public comment. Do we have a presentation, Mr. Manager?
Madam Chair and members of the board, if the acting director, Mr. Jonathan Batista, can present on this item.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. So for this item, this is a grant that we had applied for and we are about to accept if we're able to have this agreement approved of. Essentially, it's $1.9 million to fund the construction of 2 force main crossings. And essentially, these crossings will help change the way our infrastructure works, where normally crossings go over canals, and in this case, the crossings will go under canals so that they'd be further protected from disasters in case if anything had passed through the canals.
Thank you. Any questions or concerns? As the maker of the motion, Board Member Miller Anderson, do you have any questions?
No.
Thank you. Mr. McCoy, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Batista, have we identified the crossings?
Have we identified them?
Correct.
Yes, we have.
Which ones are they?
So one goes over the C-17 canal and another the M canal. One's a 12-inch force main and another is, I believe, a 36-inch force main.
So C-12 and the other one was?
So it's the C-17 canal and the M canal.
Is there any timelines associated with this grant?
Yes, I believe it's a 2-year agreement.
Starting when?
Effective when the agreement is approved.
So we have to execute an agreement in order to receive the grant?
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? It has been moved and seconded that the board approve the grant agreement from the State of Florida Department of Economic Opportunity in the amount not to exceed $1,900,800. Madam Clerk, if you are in agreement, please answer yes. If not, answer no. Madam Clerk.
Board Member Miller Anderson?
Yes.
Was that a yes, Ms. Miller Anderson? Was that a yes?
Yes.
Thank you. Board Member Lanier?
Yes.
Board Member McCoy?
Yes.
Pro Tem Lawson?
Yes.
Chair Botel?
Yes.
That motion is approved with 5 in support of the item.
Thank you. The motion is approved with 5 yes votes and 0 no votes. Item number 5.
Resolution number 26-20 UD, a resolution of the Utility Special District Board of Directors of the City of Riviera Beach, Palm Beach County, Florida, authorizing the Board of Directors to appoint the acting Executive Director of Utilities to the East Central Regional Wastewater Treatment Facility Board according to the interlocal agreement signed September 9, 1992, and the renewal of the ECR interlocal agreement signed April 20th, 2010, and appointing the acting Executive Director as the authorized signee for all Palm Beach County Health Department documents pertaining to the Utility Special District and its service area, and provide an effective date. Madam Chair, members of the board, we do not have any public comment on this item. The acceptance of public comments on this item is now closed.
Thank you. Would someone care to approve this motion? Make a motion to approve?
So moved.
I can't.
Madam Chair?
Board Member Lawson, you're recognized.
I move to approve resolution number 2620 UD.
Thank you. Would someone
So
care to
was my
second?
motion not recognized?
I didn't hear you speak, I'm sorry. Did you make a motion?
I said so moved.
Thank you. If you would say, I move
No,
to...
no. So moved is good enough.
Good enough for you then. Mr. Lawson, did you second it then?
Second.
Thank you. It is moved and seconded that the board approve the resolution appointing Jonathan Batista to the ECR board as the district's representative. Do we have a presentation?
Madam Chair, this item is requesting board authorization to make Jonathan Batista the signee and the designated point person for activities related to the ECR. This is something that we have done procedurally for every executive director that has served in that particular capacity. So staff recommends approval of the resolution that's before you, Resolution 2620.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments?
Madam Chair.
Madam Chair,
You're recognized, Mr. Lawson.
I believe Councilman McCoy was,
Oh, you recognize Board Member McCoy.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Does this appointment comes with voting rights, being on the ECR?
This particular, the activities, usually what happens, the ECR, anything that binds the municipality ends up coming back before the governing bodies to authorize. Mr. Batista, if you can explain more specificities, what the responsibilities are.
Sure. So the responsibility of this position is to make sure that the City of Riviera Beach interests are represented at the ECR wastewater treatment plant. Over the course of time, there are capital improvements that are made, there are fees that are assessed, and so by having the acting director or the executive director representing the City of Riviera Beach, everything can be kept up to speed and made sure that we're essentially part of whatever improvements and processes are changed at the ECR plant.
Follow up.
You're recognized.
Mr. Batista, does this position come with voting rights?
Could you clarify what you mean by voting rights?
Sure. You're a member of the appointed East Central Regional Wastewater Treatment Facility Board. As a member, do you have voting rights? Will you be voting on behalf of the city?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. Follow up.
You're recognized.
Okay. What's the composition of that board? Mr. Evans or Mr. Batista?
The composition of the board is individuals that are entities that participate in the activities associated with what occurs at the East Regional campus. So it is the City of West Palm, City of Riviera Beach, Palm Beach County, and ECR staff are represented on that particular board. Is there any other entities, Mr. Batista? I think there's Lake Worth.
Yeah, I
Follow
think
up.
You're recognized.
Mr. Evans or Mr. Batista, who's the alternate that we have representing from Riviera Beach?
currently?
I'm sorry?
Are you asking who's currently representing?
The board consists of a member and also an alternate member. Do we know who the alternate member is that represents Riviera Beach?
The alternate member is John Armstrong, our engineer.
I'm sorry. Who was it?
John Armstrong. John Armstrong.
John Armstrong.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other questions or comments? It is moved and seconded that the board approve the resolution appointing Jonathan Batista to the ECR board as the district's representative. When your name is called, please answer yes or no. Madam Clerk?
Board Member McCoy?
Yes.
Board Member Miller Anderson?
Yes.
Board Member Lanier?
Yes.
Pro Tem Lawson?
Yes.
Chair Botel?
Yes.
That motion is approved with 5 yeses, 0 noes.
Thank you. Item number 6.
Madam Chair, members of the board, the following resolution heading contained a scrivener's error from my understanding, so I will be reading from the actual document. The scrivener's error is the amount printed on the agenda is $244,640, and that amount was changed to $389,146. And it reads, Resolution number 27-20 UD, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the City of Riviera Beach, Utility Special District, Palm Beach County, Florida, approving proposal from EAC Consulting, Inc. in the amount of $389,146 to perform a citywide lift station condition assessment study and authorizing the district finance director to make payments after work authorizations have been issued from funds budgeted for capital improvement project number 18135 and providing an effective date. Madam Chair, members of the board, we do not have public comment on this item. The acceptance of public comment on this item is now closed.
Move to amend, Madam Chair.
Yes, you're recognized.
Well, so I want to get clarification. You gave us a number of 389,146, but that's not just incorrect inside of the title, that's incorrect in the resolution as well. And absent of, I guess, let me look at the memo, but can somebody give us some clarification? Is it just in the title? Because the resolution says 288 as well. So, I mean, if this is not something that we can readily determine right now, absent of, somebody giving us something substantial to justify this, then this is not something that is proper for us to hear. Because we're talking about an additional, gosh, what is it? Over additional 100,000, I believe it is. 145,000. Yeah, 145. Thank you, accountant.
Mr. Manager.
Mr. Batista, if you can answer that particular question.
Sure. So I believe we have two options before us.
I'm sorry, I'm not having a whole lot of volume. Can we get some volume from Mr. Batista?
Yeah,
Hello?
could you get as close as you can, Mr. Batista, to the
Sure.
microphone? And that would be great. Thank you.
So I think we have two options before us. We essentially have a proposal for $389,000 to do lift station assessments across the entire city. We have several lift stations that are in critical condition. So essentially, we can move forward with the changes to cover for the entire proposal. There's an alternative option where if the proposal was approved at the current amount, it would allow us to at least do phase one to address the most critical lift stations. Some of them are on bypass pumps, and essentially we could use the assessment initially to at least cover for the ones that are in critical condition.
Follow up.
You're recognized.
So I certainly respect and I have no reason to think that you're not being genuine about it, but the backup documents, you've given us a schedule of fees in the assessment fee proposal that only totals $244,000. Are you expecting us as the members of this utility district to accept your word that there's $140,000 additional in work that's not supported here in any of the backup?
So the support is within the proposal itself.
It's not, sir.
So within the proposal, there are two sections, phase one and phase two. The first phase is about $144,000. The second phase is $244,000.
Okay. Well, if that's the case, then why was it such an urgency to go ahead and then, I guess, consolidate the second phase into this one? Why can't we just vote on what you've given us an itemized assessment for that represents the $244,000? Is there some urgency that this can't wait until the next USD?
So the purpose of consolidating into one was to move the consultant as quickly as possible. To conduct the first phase is essentially something that will address the critical items, but with the second phase, we already understand that the lift stations that are to be looked at are also in not the most ideal conditions. So some of the lift stations that are left in the second phase are also in poor condition, but they're not seen as critical. So it's something that is meant to be done. We just broke it up as a utility district in order to have the consultant first focus on the most critical so that we can begin implementing improvements immediately.
Follow up.
You're recognized.
Thank you for your explanation, but the backup is fundamentally flawed. And there's no way that us as fiscal and fiduciary agents for the utility district should be presented with a resolution that says $244,000, a title that says $244,000, backup documentation that is itemized out $244,000 worth of work, and then further down we have some other oddball numbers that's added into it. This is not proper in its current form, and we shouldn't even sit here and consider it. And not that I have anything with water quality, but literally, this is the same body that chose to raise the water rates on all of our utility district customers. At the very least, we need to be very much accurate and precise when it comes to our water quality and also to us into our sewage, into the sewage program that we offer. And I can't even support it. And whether it's a omission or whether it was inadvertent or not, it's inexcusable. It's not inexcusable. It's not excusable neglect that we should be able to allow an additional $140,000 that's not itemized, like the additional 244. So I would certainly support the 244, but absent of the additional $140,000 or $145,000 of itemized costs, I'm not going to support it.
Madam Chair?
Board Member Miller Anderson, you're recognized.
I could certainly go along with the 244, but if there's something additional that we need the documentation for, I would suggest that we either have a special meeting before one of our next meetings, if it's a sense of urgency to get this done. But to add it tonight, I could not do that, being that we don't have all the supporting documents for it. So the way that it is written is what I could support. Anything additional, I would like to see that on a separate agenda. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Mr. McCoy, you're recognized.
So, thank you, Board Member Miller Anderson, and that's certainly what I would like to see. However, when looking at, I guess, I want to find out, how does the clerk arrive at saying that it's a Scrivener's error? What direction does she get to determine that it's a Scrivener's error? Because there's no Scrivener's error. The resolution title was right. The resolution is right. Maybe somebody came after the fact and tried to include in additional information, but it shouldn't be presented that it's a Scrivener's error, because if the backup all supports 244. So I just want to be clear on that. But if we want to read the title back as it's printed, I'm okay with that, and there's no amendment necessary. But don't add things on the back end and then say it's a Scrivener's error, because that's exactly what happened here.
Are you finished, Mr. McCoy?
I'm done.
Thank you. As I see it, in the backup, we have Phase 1 for $144,506, completely itemized. Task 1, project management and project kickoff meeting, Task 2, et cetera. And I would think that if we were going to approve anything, it would be Phase 1. And then when Phase 2 becomes necessary to be approved, that could be brought before us. Mr. Batista, is there some problem with, would it be appropriate for us to approve Phase 1 and then at some later date approve Phase 2? What's the urgency of approving Phase 2? And of course, if we were to approve Phase 1, it would necessitate a change in the documentation to read $144,506 rather than $244,640. I think I can see where a Scrivener's error might have been made. Someone looked at this document, neglected to see that above the 244 was another chart that had the 144,506 in it.
Page 5, Madam Chair.
Excuse me, I'm not finished. So my question to you, Mr. Batista, would it be appropriate to approve Phase 1 and then wait for Phase 2? Or if we approved Phase 2 as written tonight and as written in the documentation, in the resolution itself, will you be able to go forward with Phase 1?
Madam Chair, if I may interject and answer for Mr. Batista, it is staff's desire to effectively look to bring Phase 2 back to the board. I think that's the cleanest and easiest way to effectively do that, and we can do that as part of a meeting, part of your next USD meeting, or if we have to have a meeting prior to your next city council meeting, we can bring Phase 2 back and clean up that so there's no question with regards to the expenditure that staff is requesting.
I'm not quite sure I understand you, Mr. Evans. Are you suggesting that we vote tonight on Phase 1?
That is correct.
Okay, so we would be voting tonight on $144,506.
Madam Chair.
Excuse me one second.
The 244 amount.
Page 5, please.
Okay, I'm looking at page 4 of 8, and I see Phase 1, 14 lift stations. At the bottom, it says grand total, $144,506. So what am I missing? It's not until page 5 that we see the $244,640. So if you're suggesting that we should move through with Phase 1, our vote tonight would only be for $144,506, would it not? Mr. Evans?
That would be the Phase 1, Project 18135 is listed in the memorandum, and Mr. Batista, correct me if I'm wrong, has the 244, 640.
So the 244,640 is the number that matches up to Phase 2.
Right.
And so I think what Councilwoman Botel is referring to is instead of approving Phase 2, which is sort of
Right.
backwards, to essentially approve of Phase 1, so at least we can get the most critical lift stations assessed, and then have the Phase 2 approved as Phase 1 is being conducted.
Right.
Okay.
That would be my suggestion.
So, Madam Chair, correction, it would be for us to move forward with Phase 1 as articulated, and then bring back Phase 2 at a subsequent board meeting.
Right. So are we amending the resolution to reflect the dollar amount in Phase 1, that being $144,506?
That would be staff's recommendation, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Who made the motion to begin with? Mr.
Question,
McCoy.
Because that doesn't make it any, Madam Chair, that doesn't make it any clearer, because even still, I see what you're talking about on page 4. Page 5 lists Phase 1 and Phase 2 at 244,000. The memo listed at 244,000. I mean, there is so much conflict in this, right?
I don't see, I'm sorry, but I don't see where you're seeing, I don't see where it lists Phase 1 and Phase 2 for 244. It seems to me that the subtotal of Phase 2 with 37 lift stations up until there, it says 121,488, and then it adds other electrical engineering to the tune of 118,000. The total of that would be what? 120, 122, yeah, it would be about 244. So that's the total of Phase 2 is 244, right?
Right. So,
Right.
but then we were proffered a number of 389,000.
But we're I think by virtue of your objection to that, well, I'm trying to get to what the best course of action would be
And that's fine.
that would allow him to go
But
forward.
what does the 389 represent?
The
Because
total of Phases 1 and 2.
that's not what's on page 5. The total of pages, on page 5 of the PDF document, Phase 1 starts off on page 4, and it consists of 14 lift stations.
Right.
You get a grand total of 144,000. Then you move down to page 5. Phase 2 consists of 37 lift stations, and you get a total of 121,000. And
Plus
In-
the 118, right?
wait a minute, that's not how.
Madam Chair,
6, 4,
Yes.
0, 9, 8.
Madam Chair?
Madam
Yeah,
Chair,
389. It comes to 389. That total of Phases 1 and 2 is
Okay.
where you get the 389.
So, but clearly this is not correct on the sheet then.
What's not correct is the resolution.
Well, I mean, looking at Phase 1, looking at Phase 2, there's a subtotal. And then there's Hiller Electrical Engineering, that portion there. That then adds up for a grand total fee of 244,640, when I know that that's not the correct math. So
Wait. How do you know?
are you on page 5
I'm on
of
page 5, yeah.
the PDF?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm looking at two different sections. It start off saying Task 1, Project Management. That section of 21,616.
Right.
Okay, then you go down, your subtotals 121,488.
121,
You know,
488, and 118, 152, from 10. 15, 4, 5, 6. That one's 9.
it's 265.
Okay, so
So-
I think what Mr. Evans, though, is suggesting is that we approve Phase 1 tonight, which is the lower dollar amount of 144, and forget about the confusion of Phase 2 and the total dollar amount being so large. I think for tonight's purposes, in order to get this ball rolling, because we know how critically important these lift stations are to us, in order to get this ball rolling, if tonight we can just approve Phase 1, which is 144,506, would the maker of the motion agree to amending it to that dollar amount?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
That is correct. And the way in which it looks, and when you look at page 4 and page 5, it is somewhat confusing because you have the grand total fee of phase 1, and then you have the grand total fee of phase 2. And the grand total fee of phase 2 is that subtotal on both elements contained in phase 2 to give you that 244, 640, and then when you add phase 1, that 144, 506, that's when you get the $384,000 and change. But the way that it is placed here, per the consultant's letter, it can add for some additional confusion. So it is staff's recommendation to move forward with the tasks that are enumerated in phase 1 of the 14 lift stations, and then we can clean up the document here to bring back an item that better defines phase 2 and the cost associated for phase 2 at a subsequent meeting of the utility district.
Right. So I'm asking, would the maker of the motion agree to modify the motion to reflect $144,506? And that's a yes, I think. Okay, so let me just read it for all of our benefit. So the resolution number 24-20 UD, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the City of Riviera Beach Utility Special District, Palm Beach County, Florida, approving proposal from EAC Consulting in the amount of $144,506 to perform a citywide lift station condition assessment study, and authorizing the District Finance Director to make payments under work authorizations have been issued from funds to budgeted for capital improvement projects number 18135, and providing an effective date. And we have had the maker of the motion agree to amend it with that dollar amount. Is there any other discussion or question?
Preference only on the 14 lift stations identified on
Yes,
page
14 lift stations.
Thank you, because you said citywide, so I want to make sure that
Okay,
we're doing
thank
just
you.
the 14
So let it
lift
read
stations.
14 lift stations.
Thank you.
So it was
moved.
moved, thank
So
you.
moved.
So it was moved and seconded that the board approve the proposal from EAC Consulting to provide a lift station condition assessment study for 14 lift stations. When you hear your name, if you're in agreement, please say yes. If opposed, please say no. Madam Clerk?
Board Member Miller Anderson.
Yes.
Board Member Lanier.
Yes.
Board Member McCoy.
Yes.
Pro Tem Lawson.
Yes.
Chair Botel.
Yes. That motion is approved by a vote of 5-0. Item number 7.
Resolution number 29-20 UD, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the City of Riviera Beach, Palm Beach County, Florida, Utility Special District, approving a proposal from EAC Consulting in the amount of $159,378 to perform infiltration and inflow sanitary sewer evaluation survey, and authorizing the District Finance Director to make payments after work authorizations have been issued from funds budgeted for capital improvement project number 18148, and provide an effective date. Madam Chair, members of the board, we do not have any public comments on this item. The acceptance of public comment is now closed.
Thank you. Would someone care to make a motion to approve?
Just one second.
I'm sorry. Was that you?
Did they say something? Madam Chair, I move that we approve Resolution 29-20 UD.
Thank you. Would someone care to second that motion?
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Manager, do we have any presentations or?
Madam Chair, member of the board, if I can have Mr. Jonathan Batista, Acting Director of the Utility District, present this item.
So for this item, the 2013 Water and Wastewater Master Plan recommended an inflow and infiltration study in order to identify where in our sanitary system we have stormwater and other infiltration going on into our sewer system. So this study would go in conjunction with our lift station study, since if we can identify where water's infiltrating our system, we could potentially repair the sewer where water's infiltrating, and then be able to reduce the load on our lift station systems. So this is in conjunction with the previous resolution.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments?
Yes.
Mr. McCoy, you're
So
recognized.
in conjunction, are we going to go ahead and do the full amount on this one without any partition of the phases that would coincide or run concurrent with phase 1?
In this case, it would make sense to do it all at once, since if we partition it to coincide with phase 1 and 2, it would lead to additional costs through the partitioning. If we have it all in bulk, we would have some cost savings.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? It is moved and seconded that the board approve the proposal by EAC Consulting to undertake an I&I study and a sanitary sewer evaluation survey. If you are in favor, please say yes. If opposed, please say no. Madam Clerk?
Board Member Lanier.
Yes.
Board Member McCoy.
Yes.
Board Member Miller Anderson.
Yes.
Pro Tem Lawson.
Yes.
Chair Botel.
Yes. The
That
motion
mo-
is approved by a vote of 5-0. Item number 8.
Madam Chair, members of the board, before we move forward, according to the agenda that the public has, it indicates that public comment was to begin at 6:15.
We'll entertain public comment now then. Thank you.
Madam Chair, if you would read the statement into the record, please.
I will. Just 1 second. Any person who would like to speak on an agenda item, please complete a pink public comment card located at the front desk prior to the item being taken up by City Council by the Utility Board for discussion. Members of the public will be given a total of 3 minutes to speak on all items listed on the consent agenda and 3 minutes to speak on each regular item. The time limit for public comments may be reduced by a vote of the Board of Utility District based on the voluminous nature of public comment cards. In no event will anyone be allowed to submit a comment card to speak on an agenda item after the resolution is read or an item is considered.
Reverend William Burrs, Bessie Brown, Fane Losman.
Madam Chair, Clerk, City Council, Mayor, I'm here for the last time I was here at a meeting, I asked concerning the increase of the water rates. And I remember, maybe not verbatim, but the city manager saying that he would not go in effect until he meet with the citizens or someone to have a meeting concerning the rates increase. And I called and asked one of the council person when and how was he going to notify the citizens concerning this meeting. He said he didn't really know. He thought maybe he would send a letter out to the citizens or post it on the water bill. I have not received any information concerning the meeting. The city manager said that he will have a meeting with the citizens concerning the water rates. Now, I'd like to know from him, since he's the honcho of the city, when is the meeting going to take place, or has it been added to the water bill yet? Because he said that it would not be added to the water bill, even though y'all passed it without the citizens knowing, increasing the years to add the water increase when it was supposed to have expired 10 years. They gave it, past council gave it a 10-year mandate, and y'all increased it another 5 years, and the citizen was not aware. I wasn't. I'm quite sure a lot of other citizens weren't aware. And that's when I came and asked that question. So I'm here to find out, had that meeting took place, or when it would take place. Simple as that. That he said that he would have a meeting before the increase occur on your water bill. I haven't had no notification if the meeting had taken place, and I wasn't notified, the citizens wasn't notified. So I like for you all to let at least me, whether anybody else wants, I like to know because I pay water bill, water rates in this city. When will that meeting take place, or has it taken place, or if it will take place? Well, I know anybody going to answer the question at this particular time, but I'm only responding what the city manager said. Thank you.
Good evening, Bessie Brown. I'm I'm here, and I would really appreciate if you would allow Jonathan Evans to answer the questions, because we don't have any, can't contact him. There's sometimes, and we don't have a book backup and all of that. I'd like to know what happened to the current utility director. Where is he? How long has he been gone? And what happened to him? And did he resign or was he terminated? And I'm asking, are the new water rates in effect? I'd like to know that. And the other thing is that there was an ordinance for 10 years for increase in the water rates. And there was never, as far as I know, there was never anything mentioned about how much was collected. Never. Now, if that was mentioned somewhere, I'd like to know that too. And I would appreciate if you all would please allow Jonathan Evans to answer these questions.
Thane Lozman, I'd like to thank this gentleman here for doing a tough job all night. Thank you, sir. Bessie Brown just brought up a good point. When you go to other communities and you look how other chairpersons conduct meetings, when a question is asked, they try to get an answer right away. It's only going to be a short answer. Can you please answer it, city manager or county attorney or county manager? And if not, after the meeting's over, can you answer the question? So a lot of people come up here to get answers. Why do I come up here and talk a lot? I come up here to talk a lot because people around the community see me on TV and reach out to me and provide information to me that they're afraid to say publicly. They don't want to get targeted like I get targeted by the city, where $2 million was spent on legal fees trying to destroy my floating home, trying to say it's okay to arrest me and stuff like that. Those two cases went to the Supreme Court, so they don't want to do that. When one woman came here in 2006 and stood up, the next day her water was turned off. And she said, I can't afford not to have water. I have a sick a roommate who lives with me. I don't have the money to fight the city. So she had to give up her First Amendment rights because code enforcement targeted this poor woman. Okay, so the people who reach out to me, who call me on the phone, who send me messages, that mail me information, that's why I come here. Because I realize the group up here on the council, they don't care about anything. They don't care about the water rates for the resident. They don't care about the tens of millions of dollars of legal fees that are coming down the pipe. They just care about some of you illegally staying in your position, you know, not even living in the city. But I think it's important that when you go to other meetings in other municipalities and counties, when people ask a question, the chairperson makes sure you get an answer on the spot or after the meeting ends. They just don't leave people hanging. And here, everybody gets left hanging. You know, there's going to be tough financial times in cities around the country with the COVID crisis, with, you know, a looming recession when the Democrats get into office in the White House. What we need to do is we need to maximize the revenue stream coming into the city. We have plans, regardless of what Lanier and Botel want, there's going to be residential housing up and down North Ocean Drive and Pine Point Road. We have plans for a $400 million project that we have architectural renderings for. And that $400 million in property taxes can help reduce everybody's water bill. It can help add more jobs to the city. So we need to educate the people on the west side that we're not going to let Botel and Lanier dictate what goes on in the city. We're not going to let them deprive the west side of a $400 million worth of property taxes that goes into the general fund. And we'll talk about more about that later. But we're going to take our city back, and the west side is going to help us do it.
Madam Chair, members of the board, that concludes public comment.
Thank you. Mr. Evans, I'm sure you'll be answering those questions at the termination of our meeting. Thank you. Item number 8.
Madam Chair, with regards to the meetings as it relates to the utility rate increase that is going to come back before this board, those public meetings will be scheduled and notice will be provided to the residents in their utility bills, as well as on Channel 18 and our other social media channels. We're looking to have a minimum of at least 2 face-to-face meetings, as well as some other digital meetings, to be able to inform the community with regards to the proposed utility rate increase and what those monies would be utilized for. And to the earlier point, no, the new rates have not taken effect. And with regards to the former department director, Madam Chair, I choose not to discuss personnel matters in a public forum.
Thank you, Mr. Evans.
We're on item number 8, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Item number 8.
Resolution number 30-20 UD, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the City of Riviera Beach, Utility Special District, Palm Beach County, Florida, approving the proposal from Brown and Caldwell for water use permit modification, authorizing the District Finance Director to make payments from project number 21017 in an amount not to exceed $196,540 and provide an effective date. Madam Chair, members of the board, we do not have public comment on this item. The acceptance of public comment on this item is now closed.
Thank you. Would someone care to make a motion on this item?
Madam
You're
Chair?
recognized, Commissioner Anderson.
Nobody wants to see all this extra stuff, it seems like.
You learned good.
I move that we approve resolution number 30-20 UD.
Would someone care to second?
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded that the board approve the Brown and Caldwell proposal and associated resolution to begin the next critical step in developing a new water treatment plant. Do we have any presentations?
Madam Chair, members of the board, this is actually some good news. The city is making steps and taking aggressive steps to move forward with a new water treatment plant. Currently, the city of Riviera Beach utilizes a lime softening treatment process to purify the water that is provided to the residents. Currently, that water is pulled from the superficial aquifer. We have a permit through the South Florida Water Management District that takes us till February 27th of 2031. However, based on the demands and the projections, it is anticipated that we may potentially exceed the permit, the allotted a couple of millions of gallons per day by 2025. So this analysis will allow for us to do additional research to look to tap into the Florida aquifer, more your brackish water, to utilize that as a way to provide water supply for this community in the future. So this is the first step that will allow for us to do the analysis that is required to move forward with a reverse osmosis plant that we've had the discussion on. And we know that useful life on our existing water plant is anywhere between 5 to 7 years, and this is the first step in the process. So staff has been working with the consultants for some time now, and this is the mechanism that allows for us to go do the analysis and look at alternative water supplies to be able to provide potable water to our community. And staff recommends approval of the item that's in front of you this evening.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or concerns? It is moved and seconded that the board approve the Brown and Caldwell proposal and associated resolution to begin the next critical step in developing a new water treatment plant. If you're in favor, please say yes. If opposed, please say no. Madam Clerk?
Board Member McCoy?
Yes.
Board Member Miller Anderson?
Yes.
Board Member Lanier?
Yes.
Pro Tem Lawson?
Yes.
Chair Botel?
Yes. The vote is 5 yes, no no's. The resolution is adopted. The manager is instructed to follow through with its implementation.
Madam Chair, we still have item number 9.
Item 9.
Resolution number 31-20 UD, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the City of Riviera Beach, Utility Special District, Palm Beach County, Florida, authorizing the District Finance Director to transfer $126,819 from project number 18161 to 18138, authorizing the District Finance Director to make payments from project number 18138 and provide an effective date. Madam Chair, members of the board, we do not have public comment on this item. The acceptance of public comment on this item is now closed.
Madam Chair,
You're recognized, Mr. Lawson.
motion to approve Resolution 3120 UD.
Thank you. Would someone care to second?
Second.
Thank you. It is moved and seconded that the board approve Cardinal Contractors, Inc. for the design build services for water treatment plant and chemical feed system improvements. In addition, staff recommends the board of directors approve the resolution number 14-20UD to execute a contract with Cardinal Contractors to perform design build services for water treatment plant and chemical feed system improvements, including a standalone line system, recarbonation system, and electrical equipment improvements. Do we have a presentation or?
Madam Chair, if I can have Mr. Jonathan Batista, Acting Executive Director of the Utility District, present this item.
Sure. So this resolution deals with the Cardinal contractor work that is currently ongoing at the water treatment plant. When it comes to the funds that were allocated originally for their work, there was an encumbrance that was not accounted for when it comes to the lime softening rehabilitation work. By accounting for that encumbrance, we discovered there was a shortfall. By making this transfer in funds, it allows us to address this shortfall and make sure that our contractor is able to be given the complete amount that was originally approved of.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Mr. McCoy, you're recognized.
Thank you. Mr. Batista, the money's coming from a project related to generators?
Yes.
Okay, and where are we at with the generators, and what, is it in the current year capital budget for the generators?
So the generator project is part of the capital budget. However, the North Chemical building is slated to be demolished after every piece of equipment is relocated from it. So therefore, when it comes to the scope of the generator work, it will likely be reduced. Also, in the South Chemical building, we're going to be removing the old generator, and currently we have temporary generators on site to handle the load that the existing and essentially aged generators are no longer able to provide. So when it comes to this work, we're reducing the scope, and we have the budget to be able to transfer.
Follow up. So, I'm sorry, I get confused. I asked a simple question. Is it coming from the 21 budget, or is this something that we're moving? Are we changing our capital budget at all? Or is this coming from the 21 capital budget? The answer would be yes or no.
So, yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? It is moved and seconded that the board approve Cardinal Contractors Incorporated for the design build services for water treatment plant and chemical feed system improvements. In addition, staff recommends the board of directors approve the resolution number 14-20UD to execute a contract with Cardinal Contractors to perform design build services for water treatment plant and chemical feed system improvements, including a standalone lime system, recarbonation system, and electrical equipment improvements. When your name is read, please say yes or no. Madam Clerk.
Board Member Miller Anderson.
Yes.
Board Member Lanier.
Yes.
Board Member McCoy.
Yes.
Pro Tem Lawson.
Yes.
Chair Botel.
Yes. The vote is 5 yes, no nays. The resolution is adopted.
Madam Chair,
Oh, yes.
could we please, if Walter can cut up the microphones, because I really cannot, I mean, it sounds very muffled. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's better.
Thank you. So we are on to
Item number 10, Madam Chair.
number 10, the next steps.
Madam Chair, this item before you is to bring the board up to speed with regards to the dispute with the town of Mangonia Park. The city attorney and I have had opportunities on multiple occasions to attempt to resolve the outstanding balance of $590,000, and that was $590,000 that was owed as of October 13th. The number is probably well over $600,000. We have had discussions. We came to an agreement in principle, and when the town council of Mangonia Park decided to discuss this item, they were not in favor in moving forward with the solution that was proffered by the attorneys as well as administration. So at this particular moment, it looks like we are heading towards arbitration. The contract with the town of Mangonia Park, the 15-year agreement, expired in October, so they are continuing under the previous agreement. What is currently happening is the fees that are being levied to the town of Mangonia Park, once they do receive the invoice from the city of Riviera Beach, they reduce the bill by approximately $5,000 and then issue a check. They're holding on to the discussion that happened in February with the previous council, where it was discussed about the possibility of a $5.11 per 1,000 gallon wholesale rate. Staff is still attempting to resolve the issue prior to going to arbitration, but everything that we have discussed and all the options that we have exhausted looks like we are moving forward in that particular fashion. One of the things that was discussed was the $350,000+ that was owed prior to that February discussion that the board had, and then there was an additional $285,000 and some that was in dispute after that discussion that the board had in February. There was a opportunity to attempt to resolve the $350,000 and then discuss the $285,000 that was outstanding. But it is very important for us to know that, and for the public to know, that we cannot make any modifications or tweaks that adversely impacts the district's system, and the district users as well as the system need to derive a benefit associated with any modification that would be proffered from the town of Mangonia Park. So staff is continuing to try to attempt to resolve this issue, but now it looks like it's going to be a legal matter, and legal will be working with administration, and we will make sure we keep the board attuned to what's going on. But as it stands right now, the practice that I communicated as far as Mangonia Park's payment to the city of Riviera Beach still continues until we set forth a day to go to arbitration and then take it from there. At this point, Madam Chair, the attorney and I stand prepared to answer any questions that we can answer, understanding that we cannot convey our legal strategy or our perspective too much going into an arbitration with the town of Mangonia Park.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Any questions?
Madam Chair?
You're recognized, Mr. Wilson.
Thank you. Mr. Evans, have we given the town a deadline as of yet?
Excuse me, Councilman, I didn't hear what you said.
Did we give the town a deadline?
We did. Originally, the town was going to, after we negotiated what was seemingly an agreement, in mid-October, they were supposed to take an agreement before their board for consideration. Their board rejected that option, and from that point, then the attorneys have started to move forward with looking at going to arbitration. So the deadline was set in October because we wanted to look to at least establish an interim agreement to then discuss, to cure the outstanding issues, and then discuss a longer-term agreement that would come after those issues that were communicated in this presentation were remedied, but that has not occurred. And so now we're set forth for arbitration. The attorney can speak on if there's been any progress with regards to that process.
And before that, Madam Chair, follow up?
Yes.
And has the town secured services from any other municipality thus far?
The town has not secured services from other municipalities. From our colleagues from other municipalities, they have had a conversation, but it is cost prohibitive for them to look to connect with other municipalities. So conceivably, it looks like the relationship will end up being with the city of Riviera Beach for the provision of sanitary sewer services.
So if the relationship is going to continue with the city of Riviera Beach and we can't come to an agreement, we gave a deadline of October. I believe that we need to go to the arbitration and settle this agreement. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other comments? Mr. McCoy, recognized.
Thank you. So, Madam Chair, I want to first ask for information. So perhaps the city attorney or perhaps even Mr. Evans, if you can provide the body with that agreement. And if I'm understanding the memo correctly, this was in effect since 2005?
That is correct, Councilman. The original agreement was expired in 2019 or 2020, which was a 15-year agreement.
Thank you. And we're now in November, and you sent a letter 1 year ago expressing our intent not to extend in this agreement. And I think what's under dispute is the contractual rate of $5.82 per 1,000 gallons of water. And they're suggesting that they are paying us a wholesale rate of $5.11.
Yes, Councilman, the rate that is provided for in the contract is $5.82 per 1,000 gallons. They have discounted it to $5.11 based on the previous council's discussion that was had about identifying a wholesale rate and making the town of Mangonia Park a wholesale consumer of services. So they believed after the conclusion of that meeting that there was enough action that was contemplated or discussion to where they believed that they were entitled to that rate. And so they basically calculate that rate upon payment to the city of Riviera Beach. Since that meeting happened in February, in March, they started reducing the amount that was billed by the city.
Follow up. February and March of what year?
2018.
Okay. I got a few more questions.
Go ahead.
And we were not able to honor that $5.11 wholesale rate because we have restrictions by our bond covenants, correct?
That is correct, and there would have to be an analysis that would have to show that the system and the users would benefit from that. And I believe at that discussion that happened in February, that analysis needed to take place, and it would be a cost that would have to be borne by the town of Mangonia Park to assist in facilitating that, to accommodate bond counsel with regards to adopting a wholesale rate.
Go ahead.
Do we do direct billing for the town of Palm Beach Shores?
Palm
Mr.
Beach.
Sherman? So our only wholesale client, wholesale customer is the town of Mangonia Park?
Yes, and the way it's, but we haven't created the class yet.
Okay. So under what premise does, and I'm going to refer to the district attorney because she is the only chartered officer, and I didn't see the city manager as being one of those in the district charter, but under what authority or what reason would we go to arbitration?
To enforce the terms of the agreement,
Okay.
so that we can receive payment. And at the end of your discussion, I would ask that the council provide approval for us to proceed to arbitration.
Oh, well, let me finish before you make your ask. We got over 13,000 utility customers. Am I right? Somewhere around that, right?
12,845.
12,000 customers.
Give or take.
Do we go to arbitration when someone doesn't pay their bill on time?
No, we don't, but this has been happening for 3 years.
I know. So, and particularly, they get a tag on their door and they're saying they're terminated. The service has been terminated, or you got a 24-hour disconnect notice. That would be accurate, right, Mr. Sherman?
With regards to the service, we did have conversations, and since there is a public health concern with regards to the disruption of sanitary sewer.
Mr. Evans, I'm just trying to get to my point. I just want you to answer the question for me, because I'm really about to bring it in for a landing, and I hope Ms. Wynn is listening, because this is going to hit home in just 1 second. So when an individual who has an account that contracts with utility billing, if they don't pay their bill, they will get a 24-hour or disconnect notice. Isn't that accurate, Mr. Sherman? Okay, good enough. So if the contract expired, there is no provision in the contract that forces us to go to arbitration at this point.
Ms. Nguyen, you can respond.
The contract also has another 15-year renewal in it.
So that's yes or no, Ms. Nguyen? Because we're not currently operating under those terms.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Well, the reason I'm saying this is because, interesting enough, and you are very much aware of this, Ms. Nguyen, because I shared this with you in the month of September. I had a customer, one of our utility district customers, who has a utility account at a single-family residence, want to turn off their water bill, and they were not allowed to. because there was tenants there that were basically squatters. And they were informed that because there were tenants there, even though that they were squatters, the utility billing office was not able to cut off their water, right? The account holder could not even turn off their own water. So the only event that could occur for that water to be cut off is if the property owner chose not to pay the water. So we're finding ourselves in a situation where we don't have a problem going to any resident of our city and turning off their water and giving them a 24-hour notice of disconnection. And we're patty-caking around with the town of Mangonia Park for a whole entire year. Meanwhile, water rates have increased, and we're still talking about arbitration. I imagine, and it's going to be my position, and I would love to hear the embodiments of this body, but that we send them a notice that we intend on terminating, because if you're going to give me the explanation that it's a public health crisis, I guess it was a public health crisis for those squatters that was illegally occupying this landlord's property, and they had to maintain the water, and the same excuse that I got was that it was a public health crisis. So we can't have it both ways, and it's going to be my position that I don't want to waste money, because we are not negotiating with anybody that has a utility account within the city of Riviera Beach. If they're unable to pay, they may get an extension, but we don't waive any fees, we don't reduce any fees. The fees is what it is. So I don't know what the expectation of arbitration is. If they owe us the money, they owe us the money. It's just that simple. I think we need to take a hard down approach, but everybody can't seem to come and run over the city of Riviera Beach, and we tell our own people, by the way, here's 30% increase that you're gonna have. So it'd be my position that we give them a termination notice and a time certain date before we even go into arbitration, because that's gonna cost us time, money, and quite honestly, if we're not willing to settle water utility accounts with people who have utility liens that are constantly accruing and standby charges, we shouldn't be able to do it for the town of Mangonia Park. My alternative is, if they don't want to pay it, then let's go ahead and annex them into the city, and then we can then take that money that they owe us, and then it'll be absorbed in the ad valorem taxes that we take in. But I don't see how we can continue. I don't know what kind of debt collection this is, if you ask me. And it just seems like we give everybody a free pass, but our very residents, we're on top of their necks when, for whatever reason, hardship, COVID-19, we still turn around and we make it difficult for the very people that live in this community. And we sit here and want to negotiate amicable terms and even talk about a settlement. That is so unfair to the people that pay taxes in this city and also pay utility bills.
Thank you, Mr. McCoy. I have a question. In the documentation, it says, quote, "I believe the health department will prohibit any action that does not allow for wastewater to be discharged safely as is currently done. We're scheduled for arbitration, et cetera." So is this something where the health department will stop in and prevent us from?
Yes, the state would stop you from terminating services, and the services that are provided are wastewater services to the town of Mangonia Park. They provide their own potable water, so we're only talking about the wastewater services agreement that's was in place with them.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Madam Chair,
Mr. Lawson, you're recognized.
I move that we allow for.
Well, Madam Chair, before he does that, can I ask a question of what Mr. Evans just stated?
Excuse me, Mr. Lawson, let's let Mr. McCoy ask his last
So,
question.
Mr. Evans, that's not what's stated in the memo. This speaks of $5.82 per 1,000 gallons. That's not wastewater.
That is wastewater. $5.82 per 1,000 gallons is the wastewater.
Okay, so do we know what the town of Mangonia Park is charging its end users?
We don't, because I think the way they collect their revenue, and Mr. Sherman, correct me if I'm wrong, they get it in their ad valorem taxes. So they collect all the revenue for the entire year, and that was one of the challenges that we put towards the town of Mangonia Park, that in November, December, you receive all your ad valorem revenue, and your community pays for utility services for the entire year, and you're having the city of Riviera Beach subsidize your service. And that's what we communicated to them, that the amount that's owed right now is equivalent to a year of non-payment, because we collect roughly about $500,000 per year as it relates to the agreement with the town of Mangonia Park. In our original conversations, I offered the city manager the opportunity to allow for the city of Riviera Beach to be the exclusive utility service provider, and that we would take over the ownership and maintenance and the process related to their water treatment facility, because then it is a benefit, a tangible benefit that the system does receive, and conceivably then you can see that there's some cost savings that can be provided to all the end users. So we threw out multiple options and communicated exactly how and when they collect their revenue, but they collect their revenue on the front end and remit payment to the city on a monthly basis. And they have been, this has been something that dates back prior to my first stint here, and it's something that once I came back, the same thing has continued.
Follow up. And thank you, Councilman Lawson, for indulging me. I just want to make sure before you place a motion on the floor. So, District Attorney, if these arbitrations prove not to be fruitful, I imagine that's a conversation that you'll have with us, either individual or in a closed session, as to our next steps?
That's correct.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Lawson, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that we allow for staff to begin proceedings of arbitration with the town of Mangonia Park for the past due contractual funds to the city.
Thank you. I second. It has been moved and seconded that we allow the staff to proceed with arbitration. If you are opposed, please say no. If you're in favor, please say yes. Madam Clerk?
Board Member Lanier?
Yes.
What was that, Board Member Lanier?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. Board Member McCoy?
Yes.
Board Member Miller Anderson?
Yes.
Pro Tem Lawson?
Yes.
Chair Botel?
Yes. We have a 5-0 vote. The motion is approved. The manager is directed to proceed with arbitration.
Madam Chair, so I just want to make sure, can we have that agreement, Ms. Nguyen, Mr. Evans?
Yes, I'll forward it to you first thing tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any discussion by the Executive Director of the Utility Special District or the City Manager?
No, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any statements by District Board, starting with Ms. Lanier, and welcome Ms. Lanier to the real-time meeting.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that tomorrow night in this building, in this room, District 3 is having a town hall. District 3 includes neighborhoods like Federal Garden, Harmony Heights, Stony Brook. If you live in those areas, you can come tomorrow night at 6 p.m. and we will have discussion in regards to everything from code enforcement to police enforcement to small business to talking about some improvements to District 3, specifically 13th Street. So if you have an opportunity, I think that it will be televised live. I think so. If not, you can come here to engage the city manager, the police chief, the developmental services director, code enforcement, so whatever issues that you have in District 3, that you can come to this meeting and have someone to address those concerns. Thank you for having me back here. I am still nervous. It is a lot of people in this building. It is more than 10, and I know that we're social distanced, but I have 2 elderly parents at home, so I'm very, very particular about where I go and who I am around, because people you never know. The numbers have went from 10 million to 11 million cases in 6 days in the U.S. Florida is number 3 in cases, so that we have to be very, very vigilant about who we spend our time with, about being sanitary, about wearing our mask, and limiting your outdoors and going to places. That's all I wanted to say for that. Thank you guys for having me back.
Thank you. Board Member McCoy.
Nothing.
Board Member Lawson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to make a quick acknowledgement of a resolution we passed tonight. Colleagues, I just want to have a discussion. I never question any of my colleagues' decisions or votes, and nor will I question them. I will be supportive of whatever this board's decision is. But we have to take a stand when it comes to the disparity study, the local, the women and minority participation, SBE participation. We continue to allow for dollars to be spent here in this community, and Resolution 2220 was not an emergency. I took heed on Councilman McCoy's points when he stated that he didn't want to delay any projects that could be an endangerment to our residents on a previous agenda item that we discussed. But tonight was a contract that we're issuing to an organization that we haven't even had a discussion about minority, women, or local participation. That's another $400,000 a year going out of our community. So if we do not make this a priority, if we as a council do not set a precedent and tell our staff to bring back the proper information that includes local, women, and minority participation, we will never be successful in raising the median income and putting money back into the community and giving jobs to our residents. So colleagues, please, I'm going to implore you to take heed on what we're doing and what we're passing on a daily basis, because I want us to empower our community and use every bit of authority we have to push every dollar we can into our local, women, and minority. We have to depend on our staff to make the right decision, but when they're not, we tell them that they have to go back and do it again. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to reference that, what Mr. Lawson is stating. I mean, we've been talking about this for several years, actually, but the thing is, I know we talked about the consultant gathering the data so that we could move forward with the disparity. So in the meantime, what is it that we're able to do to be able to get to the point that you want to get to, Mr. Lawson? I mean, I think we all support it, so what is it that we need to do that we're not doing?
Madam Chair?
You're recognized.
Thank you. Stop approving these resolutions that do not have what we request in them. We continue to allow for staff to just bring whatever they want to the table, and we approve it and we push it through. If staff will not do their parts and make sure that minority and local is involved, don't approve it. Staff should know better to bring this to the table, because we continue to talk about this. We approved this on October 18th, 2019, and yet they have not begun collecting the data. We've been talking about this for a long time, and until we put our foot down, they're going to keep doing what they want to. So, Madam Chair, I understand that we as a council continue to move forward and move the business of the city forward, but I'm asking Mr. Evans to make sure that we have our consultants review everything before we continue spending money in the city, because we continue to approve these resolutions that they're bringing to the table that don't have the minority, women participation, local participation in it.
So, Mr. Evans, are we not collecting the data yet after we talked about it some months back?
I would like for Ms. Pimsel to be able to provide some insight with regards to the process, and even if Deputy City Manager McBride can provide some insight as well, as those two have been working on the project.
And to answer that question, Councilwoman Miller Anderson, no, we're not collecting the data.
Good evening, Board. When I first arrived here in April, it was my understanding after a couple of months that the city had previously approved a resolution to start collecting data for the study. As soon as I could, I gathered all the information, reviewed the meeting to understand what the requirements were. Shortly after that, I understand that the city wanted to engage an expert to help with that. So what I did, I looked at all the records that I could find prior to that. Ms. Jacobs was instrumental in us securing a professional services agreement with Dr. Lee. And since that time, I gathered the 2 years worth of data that I could find when we had a small business person and a contracts personnel here. I provided that data to several people, several employees, they even provided that data to Dr. Lee to take a look at. As we looked at the data, it did have some good information about what we had spent, and it did have some pretty good numbers based on the firms that we had under contract at the time. So the 2 years worth of data is from now till about 2018, the end of 2018. I provided that data to, not provided, but I engaged B2G Now to review what would help us with that. I gave the data to Dr. Lee. He also suggested that we need a little bit more in-depth. Although we had the data was in pieces. So I'm providing now that 2 years worth of data to B2G Now to review and to match with their database, which is the database in Palm Beach County, and they have massive amounts of data because, of course, they've done this all over the country. But particularly, they have worked in Palm Beach County, Broward, and South Florida. So they have a lot of data about the local and the suppliers in Palm Beach County. So we will begin working with Joshua Laurie to be able to do that. I believe maybe I didn't get an adequate chance to explain the process. So the process is generally about 5 years worth of data that's collected. That data is then reviewed and analyzed by a particular firm to verify, hey, here's the data, here's where the disparities are, here is where you need to improve. That goes along with also making recommendations to the ordinance and all of these other things. So once that's done, then we take that and look at what ordinance, what do we need to change, or what resolution do we need to adopt to fix or to repair those disparities that exist. After that, of course, there's a bit of a challenge sometimes in court, and Dr. Lee is an expert at helping with those firms, and that's why we want to have him on our team, even starting now as we build out further the data. So it takes a while. What we're attempting to do is to compress the data. So the reason why we contacted another expert in the field, Dr. Seaman, is in order to see if we can compress the data into 3 years to try to reach a study faster than normal. We've also done outreach events anytime a contract is awarded that we have issued. We have done an outreach events. I've reached out to the suppliers, and we will host one every time we get a chance. There's a lot of things, again, on the regular agenda tonight that fully supports the fact that we have made great strides as opposed to what had taken place prior to my arrival.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I think Mr. McCoy had his hand raised earlier.
So I guess Ms. Wynn and perhaps Ms. Penzl, so what would be the reason we couldn't add a certain percentage of a minority participation or make goals of 25% right now? Are you suggesting that we are not able to do that until we have a disparity study?
No, sir. We will follow our code as it is written now, and so that has the 15% participation in it. So we will follow our code as it is.
Okay, so, all right. Man. So my question is, what's to prevent us from doing 30% participation by minority or SMWBE? Is it just our code?
Oh, no, our code doesn't prevent us from getting more participation. It's just that the projects, as the projects are being awarded and as we do solicitations, we're certainly increasing that number every time.
Okay, no. So better yet, I don't know if we have any RFPs out right now, right? If we pull one back and we said, you know, this service provider or this contractor or this products provider has to employ 30%, can we do that in just our own discretion?
I don't believe so, but I would have to check legally to see if that's possible.
So
No, that's the reason, I'm sorry. That's the reason when we first began talking about engaging Franklin Lee, is that we were not collecting the data, number one, and we need the data to be able to justify that there is a disparity And so that's where where we are
Well-
as it relates to Mr. Lee.
Well, I can understand that we need the information to justify it, but until somebody can call foul, then I don't understand why that's something that we can't do.
Because the law doesn't allow it. You have to
The
be
law
able to
doesn't
show.
prevent it though, Ms. Nguyen, and that's what I'm asking you. What stops us from doing it? And if you can provide me with something specific as to what can stop it, I guess I could understand. But
Well,
that's, I guess my question.
If I may, on our regular agenda tonight, as you will see that the recent solicitations that was done has 100% a small business, 100% MBEs, and 100% women-owned businesses. So we have made great strides, and that will show in the regular agenda of items tonight. So you're correct.
I reclaim my
We
time.
can always.
I reclaim my time. Let me ask the question because I don't want you to give me a bunch of theory. Ms. Nguyen, is there some authoritative legal precedent or case law that you can point to that will prevent us from taking action before getting a disparity study? That's my question.
Yes, and I'll forward it to you.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Madam Chair?
You're recognized.
Yes, a few follow-ups. And Ms. Pimson, when you came up, I believe my colleague's, Ms. Miller Anderson's question was, are we collecting data?
Yes, we are.
Data
Go ahead.
Data that is going to be allowable, if ever challenged, to complete a study.
That is the purpose why we're engaging B2G now and also going
We're
with.
engaging them now, but are we collecting the data that is actually going to be able to pass?
We are collecting data from our current system, which is the Tyler system.
Correct, but we do not know if it's going to be sufficient to complete a study.
It is
because-
sufficient to a degree, but the more we can strengthen that information, the better off we are. And so we've taken the suggestions provided by Mr. Lee to add different additional fields and additional categories.
Okay. Have we set a timeline in regards to Mr. Lee and the expectations of what we want to see from him in regards to collecting the data?
In terms of, we have discussed the fact that ideal data gathering would be 5 years. Our goal is to compress that into 3. So we're trying to see if we can use this 2 years worth of data to compress it even more.
So now the second part, that was just for the disparity study. The other reason we discussed actually hiring and employing Mr. Lee was to actually complete and have him review our procurement codes and review everything that goes out of this building. So now my question is why are we not utilizing him to review some of these RFPs that are coming back before the table and some of these contracts that's coming before the table? That was a specific request, not just to complete a disparity study, because 3, 5, 10 years from now when the study is completed, that's fine, but we need to be impactful today. So that was a specific request I brought to the table. So if someone could please answer that.
Madam Chair, if I may, with
You're
regards to the contract with Attorney Lee, it is for $25,000, and in order to go through a review of the entire procurement code as well as reviewing all the solicitations that come out from the city, that would exceed the amount that is allowed for, and then we would have to go through a competitive solicitation process for someone to facilitate the disparity study. So we wanted to focus the efforts on the study and the analysis on the data, and Ms. Pimsel and Ms. McBride have been working diligently to look at elements contained in the code and some of our solicitations, and like it was communicated, you will see it in the regular agenda, the efforts that staff has done, because we believe that there's things that we can do to really utilize Mr. Lee's expertise in helping us facilitate a disparity study in short order, as opposed to utilizing it to look at our procurement code, because we have some recommendations and modifications that we have queued up that we most likely can get before this board here, probably at the first of the year, with some modifications to the code as it stands, with staff working on that.
So Mr. Evans, Mr. Seaman that was actually recently hired is going to be looking at a procurement code?
Not initially, because that's still a part of Dr. Lee's task to be able to do that. But once we have gotten and he even wrote back, we sent him the code, and he wrote back and said, right now he needs a little bit more time because of where we are in the process, that he doesn't feel that he can offer all the information necessary to do the code. But he did look at it, and he does have it, and so he did offer some initial information in that regard.
Okay, Mr. Evans, okay. You made a decision to move forward with having Mr. Lee focus exclusively on the study, but that study took West Palm, I think, 8 years, took the county 10 years, and it can take time. Even though that we have other vehicles to follow, that we can possibly get this done a little quicker, we do understand that it's going to take us years. We have $500 million of capital improvements we're going to be looking to complete in the next 5 years. We have contracts tonight of over $1 million that we're approving. I need this to be a priority. Even if your spending limit does not allow for that, even if an RFP has to come before the table, I'm asking since I've been on this dais, to focus on the minority, women, and local participation and our jobs here in this community. The only way we can do that is by simply taking the initiative to get it done. So, Mr. Evans, again, if we can address our procurement code so that we can do exactly what Councilman McCoy said, push it to the limit to how much money is coming into the city, let's just get that done. Let's not make a decision against that. Because, colleagues, every time I'm going to address the local women and jobs in this community, every single meeting. So if we want to continue to have these discussions and continue to talk about why money is going out of the city, we can do that. But now I'm going to be wasting my time up here, and I refuse to waste my time. So please, Mr. Evans, if you can make a decision to move forward with securing either procurement, whether it's an RFP going out, to solidify a consultant to work on this procurement code now, or if we can employ Mr. Lee to provide a contract, whatever we can do to get this done, colleagues, I'm asking for the support to get this done again. And it's been 18 months. I'm asking for it again. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I do want to make sure that Ms. Lawson understands from my point, I do support it. But I'm hearing that it takes time and it is in the motion of happening. But if there is something that we can do, I don't understand why it can't be done right now. So it appears to me they're making some strides, as Ms. Pencil said, but there are some things that we just cannot do at the moment, but they're putting it into place. So I'm not hearing anybody up here disagreeing with moving forward to make it happen, or even making attempts to make it happen in whatever kind of way we can. So, you know, I totally support the issue. I really do. But I don't understand I can't see where it's falling on deaf ears, because we've talked about it, and talked about it way before you all even got on the board. It's been talked about, but the problem was the action wasn't taking place. There was no data being collected years prior. So now it sounds like something's being done. Unfortunately, it is a process. Now, whatever we can do that's legally we can do, I think we all support that. And I think we've made that pretty clear on what we want done. And so I'm not arguing the issue whatsoever. So whatever we can do, I support that as well, Mr. Lawson.
Thank you. I think we're of one mind on that.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. McCoy.
So I just want to respond, and I got to take a shot at Commissioner Lawson. I do agree, Commissioner Miller Anderson. I am in support, but Commissioner Lawson, are we starting this today? Because I remember distinctly having a special meeting October 8th when we were faced with two identical projects that are very high quality along Broadway, and we had the option to choose from Pinnacle, who was out of Broward County somewhere, and they had even selected a local contractor from Broward compared to HTG, who's done work here in this community. And not only that, did they do work in this community, but their prime contractor was from Riviera Beach. So unless there's some new, I guess this is some new proclamation of yours, then we've had locals here, and I've seen specifically last month where you've taken the option to go with a different firm, and I was hoping that it was going to be for a reason other than the fact that they weren't local. Perhaps you were going to tell us something or give us some justification that it was a better overall project, but I've seen two quality projects, and you took the option of going with the firm that had no local attachments to the city of Riviera Beach whatsoever. So, you know, that is my shot and my response to you. So you can't, on one hand, tell us we need local, but when the opportunity comes up, we overlook the same people that have done work not only in this community, but in this very building. So I yield back.
Thank you. I think we can agree that we all want to see this happen sooner rather than later. So if we can move along, recognizing that we've given the city administration a clear directive to make this happen and continue to engage in the data collection that's necessary, and recognizing that it's a long process. If there's nothing else, Commissioner Miller, Board Member Miller Anderson, do you have anything else in your comments?
I'm sorry, Madam Chair. I was going to reserve my time to respond to Councilman McCoy when you're done.
Go ahead then.
The only thing I want, with me?
Yeah.
Just wanted to make an announcement about the Park Manor Neighborhood Beautification event that will take place on this Thursday and Friday. Thursday, the boundary areas will be Blue Heron Boulevard South, and on Friday, from 9 to 3 p.m., the boundary would be Blue Heron Boulevard North. And so we're looking for people. If you're out, please feel free to participate, but we will have close to 75 volunteers and staff that will be cleaning up the neighborhoods, but we will also be taking this to different parts of the cities. But this is just the first beautification initiative that will be going on for the entire city. Thank you.
Mr. Lawson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Councilman McCoy, the project that you're referencing, I reviewed and viewed both presentations and looked at the local participation that was contracted. Because they put a name on a paper and said that they were going to use this organization. I've also done research with the organization that previously worked in the community, and there was disparities with local participation. I also reviewed what they brought to the table, and I felt that the project that I voted on was a better project for this community. And as you know, I've been consistent in regards to communicating local and minority participation. So please don't use this one vote to sway what I've consistently spoke on this dais on every occasion based upon me seeing a project that I preferred to vote on. I've never questioned any of your votes, yay or nay. I'm telling you that was my vote, and I'm expecting the support to move forward from the entire dais. So in regards to that, yes, I chose a project that I felt was going to provide the best product for our community, and that's why I chose the Pinnacle project. But if you want to question that anymore, we can continue to discuss that, but that was my stance. Thank you, Councilman McCoy.
Thank you. I'll just make my brief statements. I also have a town hall meeting tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. Mine is virtual. If you would like to tune into it, please contact my legislative aide, Sam Brown, at stbrown@rivierbeach.org for a link to the meeting. We'll be covering an update on Singer Island capital improvements, an introduction of the new Riviera Beach Deputy City Manager. We'll have a Riviera Beach Utility Special District Acting Executive Director there to talk with us about updates and information on the water situation. We will have our fire chief there to give us some public safety information updates, and we will have Mr. John Sprague to talk about the managed mooring fields and to provide us with information about that. I also was today at a meeting that's germane to this body, a meeting of the League of Cities Board of Directors meeting, at which we had a presentation by Robert Wanvestraut, who is the Senior Water Conservation Analyst for the South Florida Water Management District. I sent a message to Mr. Evans asking him that he provide you all with the information I received today. There is an effort afoot to have cities pass landscape irrigation measures that would help us conserve water in our community. So that's something that's going to be mandated in 2023, but if we can get a leg up on it and get started sooner, that would be great. A notice just quickly about a forum on policing in Palm Beach County that will take place here on Monday, November 23rd from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. And I want to wish everyone, and I know my colleagues join me in saying this, a very happy and safe Thanksgiving. There being no other items on the agenda, this meeting is adjourned.